Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell bringing you week 38, a spotlight on success 2025, trust as currency, leading with transparency in the AI age. Welcome back, leaders, innovators, and change makers. We've been exploring clarity, resilience, and the evolving role of leadership in the age of AI. Last week, we examined safeguarding democracy itself. And this week, we shift from the national stage to your personal leadership practice. Because here's the truth. In 2025 and beyond, trust is the single most valuable currency you have. Not technology, not headcount, trust. Why? Because AI can replicate voices, automate emails, and even fake empathy, but it can't create genuine trust. Only you can. And in the complexity of today's environment, trust is not a soft skill. It's a hard edge differentiator. Think about your own career. Who was the leader you trusted most, and why did you trust them? Are you embodying those behaviors, and what can you do to bridge the divide if not? So why is trust the new currency? 3 reasons. AI saturation, because technology can automate all the functions all day long, but it cannot automate your integrity. Information chaos, news cycles, disinformation, and overload make people hungry for certainty. And lastly, organizational stakes. Boards, employees, and customers all ask the same question. Can I trust this leader to make the right call? Trust accelerates everything. Decisions move faster, teams stay engaged, customers stay loyal, and without it, friction kills execution. So where is one place in your current role where lack of trust is slowing progress? And what can you do to eradicate that completely? So how can we overcome this? Well, we can implement radical transparency, because transparency is no longer a nice to have. It is the operating system of modern leadership. The practices behind this are you can share the why behind major decisions and not just the what. Make it open, explain the context, and most of all, explain how people can align to these new outcomes and results, and ask for their support wholeheartedly. Default to openness unless there's a clear risk. Of course, we do not want you jeopardizing national security or feeding things when you know there's a mole or a insider threat, but default to openness when you can. Lastly, acknowledge uncertainty. People respect honesty about what you don't yet know. Be vulnerable. Even say, I don't know, but I will look it up, research, get someone working on that. They want to understand that you care enough to tell them the truth and you're going to action it going forward. So an example, as a healthcare organization rolled out AI-powered triage rules, rumors spread that jobs would be cut. Leadership published a weekly AI audit summary that the AI flagged what was overridden and who made the call. Trust scores and staff surveys jumped 30% in 6 months. Why? Because it showed that there might have been issues, but the issues were getting resolved, and it showed who was making the call to note that there was an issue. So we used to see this on the manufacturing floor, the red rope, any kind of quality issue, boom, right? You're pulling that red thing, stop the line. Yes, that can cause an issue with flow, but if it's significant and critical enough, it's better to catch it early so that the error does not propagate downstream. Same premise. So what's one area where you can provide more visibility, even if it's imperfect, that will allow you to build confidence in your team? What else can we do? Well, we can stay consistent because it beats complexity hands down. Trust is built less on grand speeches, etc., and just really more about repeatable reliability, what it looks like, keeping micro promises like showing up on time and closing loops, documenting your commitments and following through, and matching your words with visible actions. So at one time, leaders overpromised radical transformation, but failed to deliver even small wins. What happened is that trust eroded. And another leader simply published weekly commitments versus completion. Over time, credibility skyrocketed and employees began doing the same. Consistency makes you predictable, and ultimately predictability is what makes you trustworthy. So write one micro trust behavior you'll commit to this week. Shared ownership of the truth. Leaders often treat trust as a personal trait, but in high-performing organizations, trust becomes a system. How can you build it? Well, you can define green, yellow, red zones for AI use. Rotate trust stewards in meetings. Their role, ask, does this decision align with our values and prior commitments and with our strategies and what we've stated our priorities are? If not, does that mean that we need to recalibrate, or are we simply going to parking lot it for a later time to see how it fits into our bigger picture? And then publish team surveys and act on results visibly. A fintech startup launched truth reviews at project milestones. Staff from all levels could raise concerns openly, with leadership responding. Not only did issues resolve faster, but employee retention jumped 15%. What if trust wasn't only your burden as a leader, but everyone's shared responsibility? What system could you pilot? So trust plus accountability equals influence, because let's face it, trust without accountability is just friendliness. Influence requires both elements, trust and accountability. So what are the steps you can take? Well, you can pair every decision with a very visible how you're going to measure the outcomes to know that if you're on track. You can share your metrics and your findings, even those that might be uncomfortable. And you can recognize and reward accountability at all levels. A SaaS firm's product roadmap became a trust board. Promises were tracked, green, yellow, and red status published. Results, churn fell 20% and investor confidence rose. So people forget mistakes faster than they forgive secrecy. You could pick one decision in progress, write that how we'll measure it now statement, and see if you can expand upon that week over week over week and look at the success outcomes that occur. So we'll look at a failure case, a success case, and then through the global lens to really drive this home. Failure case: in a government ministry, leaders withheld updates about cyber threats. When leaks broke, rumors outpaced fact, and public trust collapses. Success case: a logistics company in Singapore shared its AI pilot metrics, including all of the errors that occurred. Because the transparency was radical, employees signed up themselves to lean in to improve the system, ultimately remediating the majority. Why? Because you aimed, you did your best, you found issues, you noted them, you didn't blame, and you enabled innovative employees to come in and remediate so they could get a win. You could get a win, the organization could get a win. That's called psychological safety. Global relevance. Across industries and borders, transparency is fast becoming a competitive advantage because AI is global and trust must be global too. So for our session's leadership reflection questions, you might be thinking, or you might want to ponder this next week, where am I unintentionally withholding information? What's one area I could make visible this week? How do I measure trust in my team? And is it trending up or down? Here is a 7-day trust challenge for you and your team. Share one decision in progress with your entire team, including all the risks and including the unknowns. Publish a trust dashboard with 3 items: statics, next step, owner. Run an open Q&A session where nothing is off limits. Pilot one micro trust behavior and reflect and capture what shifts by the end of the week. Trust is not soft. It is the ultimate hard edge currency of leadership. In an AI-driven age of complexity and doubt, leaders who embrace transparency, consistency, and accountability will not just retain influence, they'll expand it. Your challenge this week: spend your trust wisely, build it systemically, and watch your influence multiply. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the CEO of Global Innovation Strategies and your Success Strategies, bringing you Spotlight on Success 2025, week 38. Our theme for tonight: trust as currency, leading with transparency in the AI